Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Somed. Good afternoon, Mr. Gacheo. Good afternoon, Edna. So we are live on Facebook, and we'll be having people joining us briefly, or rather shortly. So just before we do anything, just to check your mic very fast and your speaking position. I've done that with Edna. Mr. Gacheo, are we able to just check out your video and your sound? Nixon, if you're there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yes, excellent. Thank
Is
you.
that okay?
Yes, that is okay.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Kipchilat? Mr. Kipchilat, can you hear me? Mr. Kipchilat, can you hear me? Somed Kipchilat, can you confirm you can hear me so that we go live?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Your video, please, just to confirm. Okay, great. We can see you clearly. We can hear you, Edna. Can you put on your video and we can officially begin? Thank you. So we begin in 1 minute. Just stream live and then we go on. Mr. Saura, are you on standby? Are you okay with your team? Confirm. Mr. Saura, are you there? All right. It's 12:05. We are live on Facebook. We're live on Facebook. Can you hear the repeat? Are you able to repeat? Can you hear a repeat from your end? Edna, can you hear any repeat from my end?
No.
Or you're hearing only one voice?
Yeah, there's no feedback.
Oh, so thank you. Thank you. All right, we are live on Facebook. Welcome to the iGrow webinar. I can see we have some visitors from Zoom and also live on Facebook. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Welcome to iGrow webinar series, season 2, where we bring together agriculture stakeholders from around the world to discuss, analyze, and critically point out challenges within the agricultural sectors that can be solved by technology. The reason you are here is because you want to see a future where technology catalyzes food systems, or you're here to learn about precision farming and agriculture, a field you're passionate about, or You've joined us because you're an agriculture student and want to learn how to use technology in agriculture, or you want to basically understand different technologies impacting the agricultural industry, or just support agro and the panelists today. Whatever the case, we are happy to have you and we hope to make your stay worthwhile. Before we introduce the panelists, I would like to briefly take you through how the webinar will work. So we will begin by introducing the panelists and give them a chance to introduce themselves, and then we will delve right into details of the webinars, where we'll be asking them a series of questions and they will share the feedback about the subject at hand. At the end of the session, we'll give the panelists a chance to briefly leave us with the last word about precision farming. And thereafter, we'll turn the session back to you as the audience to ask any questions to our panelists and also give us any feedback and make comments that you may have. This will be a 20-minute session, and during the session, you may post on the chat your questions on any feedback, and our teams will be responding to you where they can. Okay? Great, let's get right into it. Taking you through the session is myself. My name is Joan Mbesya. I am the founder and CEO of TechMindset Africa Limited. I'm also an author of the book, The Future in Technology Through a Woman's Eye, and a practical enthusiast in all matters artificial intelligence. At TechMindset, we educate, empower, and sensitize Africa on artificial intelligence. We're also keen on being an inclusive organization where we endeavor to serve underserved communities like women, youth, and the intersex. And we also include physically disabled persons into our programs, whom we always hope to empower socioeconomically through artificial intelligence for future. And today, we have our panelists from different organizations. You can see them on your screen. The panelists have a vast experience in agriculture and technology and have firsthand immense value as a result in the subject precision agriculture. They're here to share with us their view on our theme today, which is improving food security through precision agriculture, and also ready to answer any questions that you have. On the first panel is our first speaker, Mr. Nixon Geshel, who is a senior program manager at AGRA. Mr. Geshel is a technology, data, and public policy expert with a multidisciplinary skill set and over 15 years experience in developing, implementing, and developing projects for both governments and international organizations, focusing on the use of emerging technologies to address developmental challenges in agriculture. Nixon has also worked as an ICT for Agri with TechnoServe in East Africa. Prior to being a consultant, also Nixon has worked as Chief ICT Officer for the Commission on Administrative Justice, also known as the Ombudsman. But before I say much, I would like to give Nixon the opportunity to introduce himself to the audience and also tell us what he does at AGRA. Over to you, Mr. Nixon Geshel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible. Everybody can hear me. As you say, my name is Nixon Geshel. I currently serve in AGRA as the Senior Program Officer in charge of digital solution for agriculture. And I'm happy to, first of all, be here and to really share some of the work that we do, and also listen to the other panelists to learn from them on what they're doing and seeing how we can collaborate and partner in helping smallholder farmers navigate this difficult, part of farming system, which has of recent past has faced a lot of challenges, especially from climate change. So happy to be here and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Geshel. Appreciated for that. And on to our second panelist, Ms. Edna Kimenju, who is the Sustainability Advisory Manager at KCAC Consulting, provides support on sustainability issues and sustainability best practices to businesses that wish to transform and integrate sustainability, supporting businesses comprehensively to develop strategies that boost development in these businesses. Edna aspires to implement existing policies in agriculture sector and also to participate in formulating new policies that will create positive change in businesses for people in Africa and in this planet in general. Edna, please, over to you. Let us know what you do at KCIC and tell us briefly about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joan. I think you've done an excellent job. But just to add on, I'm a sustainability practitioner, and my day-to-day job is helping businesses embed environmental and social considerations in their operations. So how does this look like when I'm doing it for KCAC Consulting? Is helping them develop their sustainability strategies. So that's figuring out their net. So that is looking at their emissions, embedding circular economy practices into their operations as well, and just looking at their day-to-day operations, at which particular points can we embed sustainability. And interestingly, though, my undergraduate was actually in geospatial engineering. So when I talk about precision agriculture and how to utilize things like remote sensing and spatial data, which are fundamentals in precision agriculture, we were able to do that and be able to support management decisions in certain sectors. So that for about two years in the environmental sector. So the technologies of that can easily transfer to other sectors like agricultural. So it was interesting to now finally get to refer back to things I did then. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Edna. That is quite interesting because we have some very heavy questions for you this afternoon, according to East Africa timing zone, based on your experience as well. So thank you for that brief introduction. And lastly, to our final panelists, yes, I can see people online who started engaging. Welcome to the webinar. And lastly, to our final panelists, Mr. Somed Kipchilat. Please correct me if I've said this wrong, because this is quite hard. Somed Kipchilat, who is a senior business development manager at Microsoft, who is also working on the AgriBot platform team. He's working with the team to build Microsoft's strategy around agriculture on the continent in partnership with key stakeholders in the industry, and how startups play a role in this work. Somed has spent the last 8 years driving Microsoft startups and developer ecosystems across the continent under Microsoft Africa Initiatives Organization for Africa, and is an avid speaker on a number of areas in technologies and its influence on our daily lives. Welcome, Mr. Somed. Over to you. Please tell the audience briefly about yourself and what you do at Microsoft. Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you so much, Joan, and thank you for having me here today. You got my name spot on, and thank you for that. As you said, so I have spent the last 8 years in Microsoft driving a lot of startup and developer programs for Microsoft across the continent under the For Africa organization. I am now part of the AgriBot platform team, and essentially what we're looking to do is help build what can Microsoft contribute to the agriculture industry across the continent. Of course, there's quite a number of issues, and we're trying to look at, based on all the technology that we've built and the business that we've built, how do we play a role in supporting different organizations to really fully leverage on technology to transform how they work. And one
Sorry, you're muted. Thank you, Ento.
Sorry, I was saying our CEO says any tech company that can be a tech company eventually will be a tech company, and so we'd love to look at how we support those different organizations. So whether you're a startup or a large organization, how do we help you leverage on technology in the work that you do? Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you, Mr. Kipchilat. I will keep that into my radar, so that we're able to follow that through. Thank you. All right, so before we proceed, I'd like us to take about 5 minutes to know more about our panelists' organization. So we're going to briefly share their videos about their organization. So we will start with Agra. Team, kindly share the Agra. Let us know what they do in the space of agriculture and technology. Over to you, technical team. Grace, are you in a position to share the video? Okay, let me try and do it from my end.
We don't have sound.
We don't have audio, Grace? It's okay, Grace, allow me to share. Let me share. It's okay, Grace, allow me to share. Let me share. Let me know if you can hear sound.
We have a
It's
public
okay, Grace, allow me to
service
share.
provision that
Let
is
me
funded
share.
by the government. So we have
Let me know if
extension
you can hear
service
sound.
providers, from the council
Yeah,
level
yeah.
to the
There's
county level down to the
sound is
board level that are able
Let me
to
know if
reach
you
the
can hear some.
farmers. And from the council,
Yeah,
recently we
there's
have had
sound is
an engagement with some partners from Africa and another project called for Development Research Institute, LDRI, who like introduced a model of extension service for the farmers.
Looks like you're playing two videos.
Of farmers. So
Could you check?
farmers to train other farmers. A model of extension so it has been able to reach.
Looks like you're playing two videos.
Farmers. So we
Could you check?
farmers to train other farmers.
It looks like we're playing two videos.
Yeah.
Allow me to check. Grace? Allow me just to change that. Allow me just to change that.
I became a VBA in February
Allow me
2019.
just to
I was introduced to heralded by the extension officer. I became a VBA in February and we were trained by the heralded and we were taught about on how to volunteer to help the farmers, on how to improve the productivity to their farm. About on how to volunteer to help the farmers.
Our project had three main objectives. One was on using the VBAs as a tool. Our project has an extension main objectives, information so that they could reach using the VBAs. Two on regenerative agriculture extension practices, adoption by the farmers, and then the agri-then came in two on regenerative fodder, which was dissemination of information by the farmers, stakeholders, the agri-then came in the county officials. On regenerative fodder,
I thought that is a very good idea because currently in Kiambu we have a scarcity of staff. I thought that is a very good idea. Reaching farmers currently it's still we have a because, for example, I'm all alone in reaching presenting a water. Currently,
I am a VBA with over 700 farmers, of which I've been able to register 510 farmers on the AgriPort, and I have accumulated them of over 700 farmers. We have several challenges as farmers in this area, one being and the other rainfall. The seasons are not like they used to be. We also have problems like as the maize farmers, the fall armyworm is really affecting the maize, so that's really a huge problem. And we also have a problem with our soils. Our soils are very acidic. As you can see, because of the tea requires very acidic soil, so it affects the other crops. And we also have a problem with our soils. Our soils are very
partnership with Agra started when we realized we had similar objectives. One in terms of being able to support farmers better.
Joan, can I play the video?
Agra started, and so partnering with Agra, one was to get industry expertise and learn from them.
There's still a challenge in the video.
What are the challenges?
I don't know if it's only me, but I can hear.
Challenges that I observed.
There's still a challenge in the video because it's also playing live.
It's only me, but I
Some of
can
them
hear.
Try and play from your end.
there's still a challenge to access
because it's also playing.
There's a challenge in the video. I don't know whether the rest can hear it well, but I feel it's a rather an echo or something like that. I don't know if the rest can really follow. Are you following well, Somet?
Yes, please go ahead.
Can I share?
Yes, please. I've given you the rights. Please go ahead and share.
Okay.
I don't know why it's having to. Yes, please go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Are you able to hear and follow?
I think it doesn't have sound. Nixon, are you able to enable sound? Can share sound. Still no sound.
Okay.
No problem. Let's try to organize from our end. Maybe we can try and play the other video from my end.
Is there sound now?
No, not yet.
Let me just see. Sorry.
Not yet. I think it's when you're sharing, maybe if you're able to enable sound on your device.
Okay, let me just. Anyway, I think because of time, can we play the other videos and see as I work on this one, please?
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead with this.
Other videos and see as I work on this one, please.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead with this.
Other videos and see.
Can you hear my end? Yes. Let's go ahead with this. Is the sound okay? Can you hear my end? Let's go ahead with this. Is the sound okay? Can you hear my end? Is the sound okay? Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Just briefly, Mr. Kipchilat, that's an interesting agri-tech chatbot. However, I can see that the responses that it gives is in English. How do you work with farmers to implement the bot and help them understand? Can you hear me, Somet?
Oh, sorry. I thought our question was to Nixon, but so the AgriBot has the ability to support multiple languages. I think at this point we are using English and Swahili, and then working with village-based advisors to make sure that there's good adoption for the platform. It's actually a project that we're doing with Agra, so Nixon can feel free to share more.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sumet. This AgriBot solution was actually co-created with Microsoft, and the idea here is to use our village-based advisors who really are our intervention on the public advisory to the farmers, because currently the public advisory to the farmers ratio is so large, almost one farmer to almost 5,000, one advisor to almost 500 to 1,000 farmers. And so what Agra has done is to come up with a model that we call the village-based advisors, who then are really trained in advisory services, and then they are able to relay what we call the good agronomical practices to the farmers in their farming system. So we co-created AgriBot to try and digitalize the VBA who reaches out to the farmers. And the VBA here is an advisor. So we train the VBA in the use of the phone, and he is able to send digital content to the farmers who also have a phone. And this does not really have to be a smartphone. The communication and the content can go through either WhatsApp, SMS, or Telegram. So the way it is built is that it supports 2 languages currently, English and Kiswahili. So and we're looking at expanding that to then the local language with the farmers are able to relate on. But so far, we have been able to pilot in 2 counties, that is Kiambu and Embu, and the feedback is encouraging, because one of the things that we also did after the pilot is to do a survey on how AgriBot is functioning with the farmers, and we got some very good feedback on what the farmers would want to see in the content, as in terms of content, and also in terms of kind of feedback that we will need to see with the system. So it is a solution that has been able to be put into trial, and we're seeing good results in terms of now we have about 50,000 farmers who are now registered on the AgriBot in the two counties, and we're also working very closely with the county government in terms of getting that content. But we're also expanding this partnership to Caro, who have a number of content that we also want to push to the farmers in that state. Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, 50,000 farmers, that's steep. I mean, I didn't expect that, especially like 500. That is good, congratulations. However, I'm just curious, is it been developed in Kamba as well, very soon? Kamba language. I heard you saying it's been translated, the chatbot can now do Embu. Just curious if it's going to the Kamba land as well, and how you
to expand to other counties, and not only other counties, but also other countries that we serve as Agra. And so we since we have seen some of the benefit that it brings to the farmers, then we want to see how we can scale it to the other counties and also include some of these languages, working with other consultants to consider some languages that will need to be factored in. Kamba would be one of them, because now already working in other languages like Kikuyu, Kiembu, and so forth. So we're really looking at how this solution can be at least very relevant to the farmers that we are targeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geshe. The reason I zoomed in on Kamba is because we know that area with farming, there's so many farmers who are trying to mitigate food insecurities, and if they would get such technology with them, and they would come to their language, but that would be pretty interesting, as a test subject, as a subject to test in terms of local languages. And I'm happy that you're looking into scaling also the whole of Africa. We're looking forward to that technology. Now, because of time, I want us to delve right into the session about precision farming. All right. So I'd like to give this opportunity to Ms. Edna Kibenju. In your own words, how would you describe precision farming, and how is it related to food security for Africa? Over to you.
Well, I think I would start with the context, and just the context being at our current trajectory, we need 1.5 Earths to be able to sustain our consumption at the moment, and with the population being at 7 billion people. This is still exacerbated by climate change impacts, because we are noticing there is natural resource scarcity. In fact, if we were to narrow down to water, humanity relies on 0% or 0.5% of the water that we currently have. That's the one that's fresh water that we can use. And 72% of that 0.5% actually goes to agriculture. So, and with the studies that are now coming because of climate change, water scarcity is a looming issue that we need to consider. So in order for us to try and get around this challenge of water scarcity and other natural resource scarcity issues that we are currently seeing from a sustainability and climate change point of view, we need to embed sustainability and circular economy principles in our operations. So this is where now things like precision agriculture come in place, because we need to be able to use data to tell us what inputs are needed, where are they needed, in what amount are they needed, and when are they needed. So this will give us the particulars to ensure that the nutrients and the inputs that we use are exactly what is needed at the exact moment. So ensuring there's efficiency. So this goes to looking at our soil nutrients, figuring out a certain, for example, land use area, what type of crops can be able to grow there, what existing nutrients is in that soil, so that we know when we are giving additional nutrients when it comes to fertilizer, or what are we, because at times we just give fertilizer inputs, but perhaps the soil already has what is needed. So balancing that to ensure there's efficiency. When we're looking at pests and weeds, what areas are prone to certain pests and weeds, and how do we mitigate that? And when we're looking at even the health of the crops, so we can perhaps use remote technology to be able to deduce the health of the crops way before, and be able to figure out how we're going to put in mitigating. So using technologies to just ensure we're efficient is what precision agriculture gives us in the agricultural space.
Yes, thank you, Edna. Efficiency is what we need in agriculture. And I like the way you've indicated what, where, when, how. Farmers need to know how much water should they put in plants. What kind of fertilizer what area needs more fertilizer than the other, which part of the soil needs more water, or moisture or more nutrients to help. And I love that aspect about precision farming. But we'll get right into the intricate details of that, because we talk about this so many times, but farmers want to feel and experience it. Before I move on to the next part, I'd like Kipchilat to please tell us from your experience and your definition of precision farming in relation to food security and sustainability. How would you describe it to the local farmer, to the audience who is listening? I can see people on Facebook are asking, that they're actually commenting good stuff, but how does it apply to us? I'll give you that chance to explain that. Over to you, Chilat.
Thank you for that. So when I think of precision agriculture, I think of how do farmers at the farm level really optimize the work that they do. So optimizing the inputs that go into the farm, optimize the work that they're doing. And essentially the outcome of this is to get the better yield, to get better outputs. How do you optimize how much pesticides or how much fertilizer you're using at the farm? Now, to enable you do this, you need to have data, and this is where sort of technology comes into play. As a farmer out there in the field, I cannot stand at the farm and say, oh, I can measure the humidity, I can measure all these things just from my brain, right? And so technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, then start allowing you to look at what are the data points can I get from my farm? Can I understand, how much water is going into my crop based on actually how much it needs based on the data that I'm getting about the crop itself. So it's really taking advantage of technology to do the things that the human mind essentially is not able to measure, and then sort of using that data to base your decisions on what inputs you're putting into the farm. And this essentially starts allowing you to make better data-driven decisions to actually better the yields and outputs that you have on the farm. So that is my thought in terms of precision agriculture.
Joan, you're on mute.
I was speaking to myself. My apologies about that. Sorry, I'm saying thank you for that. And what I wanted to reiterate on what our audiences are asking, how is this useful to a local farmer? How do they practically implement what you're saying? How do they optimize, for example, fertilizers into their farms using precision farming? This is just a question by Mr. Gade.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So thank you for that. So it really depends on the kind of farmer that you're looking at. Of course, if you're looking at the large scale farmers, they have the capacity to start using all these big technologies, put sensors at the farm, put all these implementations in place, and really this allows them to go far. But if you're looking at the smallholder farmers, it could be using services like AgriBot to just get information about what they're doing. Not everyone out there understands weather patterns and how that affects certain kinds of crops. It's not information that you essentially store in your brain. So being able to have a service that will enable you go and find out information about, okay, cool. So I'm seeing my leaves look like this, could this be a pest, and what pest is this, and what's the treatment methods? It could be saying, hey, this is the crops that I'm planting. Like this, could this be a pest, and what pest?
Thank you, Mr. Kipchilat, for that well answered question. And over to you, Mr. Gesheo. At Agra, you're big at scaling and scaling such kind of technologies. And from experience, I've seen, or rather, I've experienced Agra and what you do when it comes to like armyworms controls, using for technologies, etc. Based on that, how do you think precision farming, as you define it, would be scaled effectively across farmers in East Africa? Let's start from East Africa. That would be the main point of interest. How would you advise farmers to scale precision farming in East Africa to manage any particular kind of problems that they're facing? Over to you.
Thank you very much. I think the two panelists that went before me actually did a lot of justice in trying to explain what precision farming is, because you look at precision farming, it actually comes from the word precision. How do you precisely use the amount of resources in the farm that are required? So brings into play issues of optimization of farm resources, and the set of tools like they have talked about to gather data, and also technology to really improve the farming system, so to speak. So one of the things that you realize that we are fast moving from, as Agra, we're fast moving from what we commonly call innovative agricultural technology. Innovative agricultural technology to what we're calling the food system, where we are looking at the whole components of producing food. How are we producing food? And this brings into play the whole issue of environment that I had. I think someone talk about the environmental issues and also the issues of sustainability. So if you look at precision farming, one of the things that it helps do is also to manage the environment, since there is since what you are doing with precision farming is you're reducing the amount of waste you're having. For instance, fertilizer, herbicide emission, and soil compensation. So to your question on how are we doing this, we're doing this like Sumedh said, one of the ways is finding solutions that could actually address smallholder farmers' issues, solutions that are low cost, but can also collect data and also look at issues of soil sampling and determine the soil profile, so that we have sort of what we call informed decisions out of the data on what kind of fertilizer is to apply to soil. Because you remember that before, farmers used just to apply any fertilizer without really going down to the soil and determining what kind of profile the soil had, so that you are informed on the kind of fertilizer that you need to put on the soil. So one of the things we are doing at Agra, because we're working with small-scale farmers, is to introduce solutions like chatbots to be able to help farmers look at do simple things like take soil samples, send it through the system, and an agronomist will now address the issues. If it is the issue of paste, they will take a picture, send it to the platform, and then the agronomist on the other side will actually tell them what their plants are suffering from. We can do soil testing through other partners. So we work heavily through partnership to really look at scaling some of this innovation. And the best partners to do this really are private sector, because they are into the business of creating business around farming. So we identify private sector and try to crowd in some of these partners to see how best could they be able to come out and address the issues of farmers that the farmers are grappling with, and more so use of technology really to create data that informed intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geshel. I love the fact that as Agra, you're using low-cost solutions, to advance technology in agriculture. But I'd like us to get to where the rubber meets the road. Okay, whilst the aging populations are actively involved in majority of food production, they are, however, unlikely to engage in these technologies that we are talking about day to day. But yet, as stakeholders, yourselves, ourselves, are striving to introduce farmers to these, affordable solutions that are geared towards, let's say, precision farming. I'd like you to please comment on that.
Yeah, maybe let me come in now that there's a lot of silence. I think one of the things we have done as Agra is through our initiative called Generation Africa, is to really focus on how we engage youths with agriculture. And like one person keeps saying that youth are not going to really carry, the pangas and hoes to go to the farm, but they are excited about, looking at the value chain and the entry points that it could actually make a difference. And one of these is through technology, of course. So with our Generation Africa group, we are looking at, we actually run two competition, the Go-Getters and the Pitch Agri-Hack, that invites young people to showcase their startups, and we see which ones of the startups really relevant to our farmers, and then work with them to scale. But on the other side also, because like you say, the age of our farmers average is 55 and above. Especially one of the things that came out of the survey that we did in Embu and Kiambu was that one of the challenges that the farmers had was literacy, the issue of illiteracy. So working with them to train them on how to use some of this system and making them easy for them, as easy for them to be able to work around the solution and get the kind of information that they want to get. The kind of information is very key to some of our programs that we run. And as Edna mentioned also, because we value sustainability, and if the farmer will not be able to appreciate and learn the technology, it's easy for them to drop it. So the issue is for us is to give them better training, look for solutions that are not as complex, and then of course train them so that they are able to adopt and use technology as to help them in their farming system. But also I encourage youth to come into this space of agriculture by promoting some of the innovation, incubating them from ideation to where they can actually create business rolling out to the market. So we support that also within Agra, and we are very happy to work with the youth to be able, and not only the youth, by the way, and also women, because we are also inclusive, to work with a number of women. Even in our choices of our VBA, we deliberately have a portion that we say we need to have a number of women VBA being chosen. And we have seen from the survey that we have carried out that women tend to really work together in a group, even within the VBA model, to really progress their intervention with the farmers very well, and so looking at how do we encourage youth and also include women in our work in Agra. Thank you.
No, thank you. I like the fact that Agra is involved with the youth in implementing, such technologies. Then that means the generations will not have a challenge when it comes to implementing these technologies. But also, I appreciate that you're involving women in this, venture, and that is something that we as Africa need to really up our game in terms of involving women in agriculture. Most of us are mostly, we are off farm. We let them do the work. But the fact that we have a technology that will be inclusive, that is amazing. So about Generation Africa, I'll get back to you on that. I'd like to involve Edna in this next question. Edna, let's talk about food and its security. Let's talk about, basically in plain language, hunger. Currently in Africa, let's focus in Kenya, we are citing unstable food markets. Commodity prices are up the roof. That is a reality as we speak today. Yet, farmers, despite the high prices, are complaining of poverty, failed crops, failed, food insecurity, unsustainable living. And, our political environment is also not helping much to trigger this food insecurity. How do you think, as an expert in the field of agriculture technology, how do you think precision farming will play a part in mitigating such occurrences in the long term? Over to you, Edna.
Sorry, I was on mute. So, yeah, I said the statistics, or rather the context you gave, is spot on, because food-related waste is a third of, represent a third of the global food production and the GHG emissions. So the whole industry is actually coming under light so much, because 37% of the food produced in sub-Saharan Africa is actually lost between production and consumption. And this chain, talking about between production and consumption, we are looking at the crop failure part, which is the food before it's harvested. Then we have the post-harvest process, which happens because of maybe lack of technologies when it comes to maybe food storage or transportation, value addition processes, and the ability of the food that we make. And then there's also the wasteful consumption. At times we never think of, we go and buy food at the supermarket, you're happy dragging along, you have too much, then you end up throwing it away. So that's still part of the process. Now it comes to precision agriculture, it actually focuses to solve the crop failure stage, which is the planting and the growing stage. And I think, as we alluded, and also Summit gave quite a bit of context, this is the optimization or the efficiency of the water that we are using, and the fertilizer and the energy and the land is used in the production process. So precision agriculture will be able to solve some of these challenges, and we're actually looking forward to a place where the smallholder farmer can be able to utilize this. The challenge with precision agriculture is the context. The technology at times can be up in larger contexts quite easily. So we're trying to figure out how do we scale it down for the smallholder farmer to be able to use it, because if we look at Kenya, for example, or even African context, a lot of our food actually comes from the smallholder farmer. So we need to figure out as stakeholders, how do we scale it down so these people, the farmers themselves, can be able to apply and benefit from the technology. Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, when you mentioned about how we drag trolleys in the supermarket, it brought me back to reality on how we waste a lot of food without knowing. We have a lot of challenges in this. I think this is something that needs to be sensitized a lot. So not to farmers, because I don't think this is a farmer's problem. This is a problem of you and me, the modern people, the people who access food. It's something that needs to be addressed at that level, and I agree with you. So in the same spirit, talking about the same challenges, I'll take this question to Mr. Kipchelat. Research states that the generation alpha, we know about the different generations we have today, that they are the future of food security. Basically, what we mean, we depend on them to solve these problems. What we are doing right now is innovating, but we expect them to adopt, the future technology by the use of modern digital technologies like artificial intelligence, something that you mentioned earlier in the webinar, and precision farming, Internet of Things, cloud computing. But interestingly enough, very few of the youth around us see agriculture as the future. Okay? As much as we depend on them, we are finding it very hard for them to help them see that agriculture is the future. What is your take on that?
Thank you for that. So there's a famous musician who says, you have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. So if you look at the power and the capability of the phones that we have today, and especially young people being able to adopt that technology way faster than any generation has, I think presents an interesting opportunity. I think the challenge that a lot of the young people are experiencing is sort of a mindset perspective. I guess one of the other dangers of technology, it has created some level of instant gratification sort of mindsets where people expect to come into agriculture today and make quick money by the end of the month, and it doesn't work that way. You have to put in the time, the effort, and any farmer can tell you, you plant today and you hope 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road that you'll actually be able to get yield, and there's of course a million factors that change that. I think technology presents an interesting or a different perspective to how young people can play in agriculture. It could be that maybe not go to the farm and farm yourself, but how do they come up with interesting innovations that then support the people at the farms. It's thinking about with the different access to whether it's financing, whether it's information, how can they play at agriculture at a different perspective? It could be building startups that provide the solutions that our farmers need. It could be finding interesting ways. So you've seen a lot of people doing things like aquaculture or agriculture towers. So those are creative new things that young people can actually dive into. But I guess a lot of it is facilitated by a mindset shift. There has to be a mindset shift that, that some of this work actually takes time. And if I put in the diligence, the effort, and really fully take advantage of what is available to you, then I think we can get where, I think we can get really far. I think, again, one of the challenges is there is lack of what I call technology intensity. So people like to look at technology at a very high level. Oh, wait, what can this thing do? Boom, let's go try and use this thing to fix that problem. But really, people don't go deep into really understanding, there's a lot more that technology can do, and there is a lot more to explore. So I think that mindset shift is what needs to happen. I think there's enough programs, enough companies, enough engines that can allow young people to be successful in agriculture. It's just a mindset shift that's missing.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you mentioned the power is at your fingertips. And if you're Generation Alpha and you're listening to this, I'm hoping you're listening keenly. It is not a one-day process. It is a process that takes, it's progressive. First, understand where your challenge lies. If you're an agriculture enthusiast, you want to get into the sector of future technologies in agriculture, first understand the concept, innovate, reiterate, create, solutions. Go to a funder. As a matter of fact, that's what we intend to do. We are bringing stakeholders together so that you, as an entrepreneur, as a startup or an innovator, you're able to bring to boards to play your innovation. Once you help, farmers, or you help the stakeholders understand the kind of innovations that you're doing, then launch it, talk about it, help people understand how they can bring in more youth into it. Just like any other, innovations, not only in agriculture, in music, in entertainment, in medicine, it takes time to build an empire. And I think that is what Kipchalat has told us regarding to Generation Alpha. So thank you for that, Mr. Kipchalat, which now takes me to our first panelist, Mr. Gisheo. Talking about revolution in agriculture, from your experience as a senior program manager at Agra and an advocate to smart agriculture, you have seen transformation within agriculture, because what we're trying to see is, as a stakeholder in agriculture, you have experiences. So we really need you to share these experiences with the audience, indulge the audience about the future trends that you are seeing in smart agriculture, if you made precision agriculture, that you believe will have a huge impact in food security. Let's start from somewhere and see where the conversation takes us. Over to you, Mr. Gisheo.
Thank you, Joan. I think one of the things we had a webinar sometimes back on organized by USAID and other partners on ICT for Ag 2022. And one of the things that was discussed is really the revolution of agriculture, how agriculture has moved from 1.0 to currently what we know as 4.0. So probably also discuss with the audience that the evolution of agriculture has, created along the way a different, different technology, and also brought in different kind of thinking into agriculture. So if we start with agriculture 1.0, which is basically was called a Neolithical revolution, there were in that time there was a bit of new innovations and practices, and the new innovation and practices then was domestication of plants, domestication of animals, and also the use of secondary products into farming. So people really started looking at animals, not like wild animals, but then separated what could be domesticated for farm use in terms of plants and also animals. So agriculture 1.1, the innovation was around domestication of plants and animals. Then we came to agriculture, what we call agriculture 2.0. We then looked at or what is called now as the British Agricultural Revolution. It had also its major development and innovation. One of the development innovation was around crop rotation. This season you plant maize, next season you plant maybe beans or legumes, like that. Then there was also what we call the Dutch improved Chinese plow. Now we see machinery being introduced into farming. Then we had what we call an exclusive ownership of land. So now we see people partitioning land and people starting owning land. And then there was also the development of the natural markets and infrastructure. So the realizations that if agriculture is done in the rural areas, farmers need access to markets, farmers need roads, development of roads that could access some of these farms and so forth. And also there was now the coming of what we call the new crops and selective breeding. So that was then introduced in agriculture 2.0, coming with new crops. Now the science of breeding also now starting to come in and say we can actually do breeding. And then we then had, or we still do have, as we revolutionize to 4.0, we now have what we call the green revolution. And part of our name denotes this alliance of green revolution in Africa. So the major development here was around newer methods of cultivation, which saw the increase of mechanization, now the use of tractors, the use of farm, instruments. We started now using chemical fertilizer and agrochemical inputs. We then, progressed breeding, and now we have high-yielding variety of seeds and biotechnology. Then we also have modern, science, farming methods and technology transfer to the developing world. We also now are transitioning to what we call agriculture 4.0, and I think this is the discussion for today, which looks at precision agriculture, where we're looking at solving problems of intensification around with the use of data being very primary in this, the use of technologies such as blockchain, somebody had mentioned artificial intelligence, drones, we're using issues like the gene editing, blue foods and meat analogs. So also of recent past, you have seen the uptake of vertical and urban farming. So these are some of the innovation and technologies that are coming up throughout the years of the evolution of agriculture. So with 4.0, what we're discussing is precision farming, where we are using data really for decision making, data to look at how do we grow our food, but also looking at the whole aspect of food system. How do we grow our food, but not our growing of food does not impact on our environment, because now the issues around climate change is now huge, and one of the areas that climate change has really affected is agriculture. So we are promoting food system, the way we grow our food, the way we even package our food system in terms of the growth that does not affect environment, because you hear in many of these African countries, people are expanding farms, and in expansion of that farm, they are now even cutting down trees. Is that beneficial for the farming system? It is not, because when you cut down trees, then you are affecting, in effect, also disturbing the environment or affecting the environment that will then come back to haunt the farmer, because then we may not have the right environment really to do the farming system that they need. Also, within this is looking at how food is, the health of food, issues of nutrition come into play. Are we eating right, or are we just eating? So all these realizations are coming out to solve the problem of the intensification, especially when you look at where we are in agriculture 4.0. Thank you.
Thank you, Nixon. I heard it from you that we have agriculture 4.0. What I know is Web 3.0. I love the advancements that we've reached to agriculture 4.0. I love the fact that it's, we are coining agriculture technology around IoT, AI, precision farming, and that is very good. And I'm also saddened by the fact that we are still cutting trees despite the knowledge that we have. But interestingly enough, and I think I've seen this happening mostly in, in China or Japan, that urbanization has, has incorporated agriculture into their houses. right? So that you're not blamed on cutting trees to build houses, but they're saying you're building houses to, you know, to incorporate trees, to incorporate food systems, etc. So that, but don't worry, we'll talk about that later. I'm interested just to move on with the same spirit of the technologies that you're talking about. I'll move swiftly to Edna, and I want to really discuss about these gaps. We have these innovative, let me call it, as Mr. Geshe has agriculture 4.0. Okay, there is a major gap in the skills being impacted in universities, especially training on agriculture. So that we get agriculture graduates who are finding it hard to get placements within the agricultural sector, you know, and if they do, for those who do, the remuneration, I believe, could be better. It seems like maybe organizations have not really embraced the value of an agricultural graduate or someone who understands the technologies in agriculture and can, you know, help or rather support an organization. It's still being taken at a very low level. However, I know you have experience with that at KCIC. Kindly comment on
that. Yeah, so I think with the work we've been doing for a couple of years, we noticed that, which is the case in with climate-related technologies, and even bringing it down to agriculture and particularly precision agriculture, is that there is familiarity. So people have been used to a certain way of doing things. In agriculture, the technologies that we used to do during our parents and our parents' time is still some of the things we try to do now. So that familiarity at times curb our creativity and our willingness to take on certain technologies. And then with that familiarity, there's also lack of knowledge, and those two are kind of attached. So we find that a lot of the farmers and even some of the people who could contribute to the climate change space don't have the knowledge of how to go about it. Then we come to the tech. The tech, as I said before, it at times looks at a very broader picture. So we need to figure out how do we scale it down. And with particularly precision agriculture, we're looking at issues like data management and connectivity of this. Then after the tech is the financing element. Who's going to finance this? And that's why some of the work we do as KCIC is try to mitigate those hurdles for the people in the stakeholders who can play and participate in this field by offering business advisory services. And with this, we also just help the farmers or the players be able to know how to conduct business, because business models is one way, but also provide them the technical information they would need to be able to adopt these technologies. Then we give them access to finance, and with that we'll be able to support quite a bit of farmers in the sector and different innovations. Then we create an enabling environment for them, because it's one thing for you to have the tech and be able to know how to use it, but if the small regulation hinder you to do that, then it becomes a hurdle. And particularly in the agriculture sector, AC has been implementing a project called AgriBiz, which is a 5-year program supported by EU and DANIDA that just helps farmers be able, within the value chain, be able to bring on board agriculture technology and innovations. And that's where precision agriculture falls in. And as a result of all this, what you were talking about, the value of the agricultural space will be able to be transformed. And once that value is transformed, then we can be able to change the mindset, as someone has said, the mindset of the farmers and the attitude within the agricultural space, which also gives the value for putting a price for remuneration and also bringing in like additional jobs. And even like one of our outcomes that we keep tracking is the number of jobs we are able to create within certain value chains that we work in. And also we need to have like transparency within the sector. So now notice in the sustainability field, if you're exporting to some supply or some companies in EU, then you need to adhere to certain ethical transparency or guidelines. So being able to do that then transforms a lot of placement, creates value within the sector that now brings about having more players and more people and jobs within the space. And hopefully then we'll be able to bridge the placement and the remuneration gap as we go about. So I keep urging coming into the place. We need to put a lot of work as the people who quote unquote fall on the sword themselves. So yeah, you'll get into it and the remuneration is, but collectively we continue to put in the work. We're going to see a bit of changes, and we are seeing the lights into light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah.
Yeah, incredibly put. You know, and that is the reason why we need more organizations to come out. If stakeholders are to play a major role in the sensitizing and bringing in people to show value of what agriculture can do, then it needs to start with us. I agree with that. Very, very well said. Thank you. Now, I can see a comment by the audience. It is, yes, that is true, but how do we apply it in business? How do we make money? The same thing that Kichilat was talking about. And in fact, it really marries to the next question that we're going to bring about. Is you see now the audience is interested to understand how agriculture innovations can be used in business case scenarios. Just very briefly, you know, tell us how these technologies, the innovations in agriculture, how can they be a profitability factor in an agricultural setting, business kind of venture? Please, over to you, Kichilat. Sorry, you're muted. Is it muted or?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of business, I think there's a number of ways to look at it. So, you know, from on one perspective, you can build a company that provides a specific service, and you know, build a business model around it. I think one of the challenges in the agri space is we tend to try and solve every problem all at once, and that becomes a bit of a nightmare to manage. So I think it's investing the time to understand, one, what is the problem am I solving, and can I get very good at that? And then look at how do I create a business model around it. And this doesn't mean, you know, charge the farmer for everything. It could be, you know, how do I make money on data? How do I make money on processes? How do I make money on, so I guess there's a couple of different business models, business angles that you can make so that the work that you do in agriculture makes sense. So it really depends. I think being very intentional and specific about what it is that you're contributing into the ecosystem becomes very important. I think if you look at trying to solve a very wide problem, then you end up spending a lot of your time doing a lot of patchwork. So, and even if you look at from, give an example, an investor's perspective for those that look at investing in agriculture, you know, there's a couple of considerations that they look at. They look at scale, you know, so if I'm solving a problem and I only have 1 or 2 farmers on my platform, then definitely the chances of you building a business around that or getting investors becomes a bit of a challenge. So it's looking at how do I leverage on the engine, services, products, technology to really scale. Look at how do I impact as many farmers as possible, but in a more sustainable way, right? Because there might be things that you do that become very, very expensive at the onset, and that just necessarily doesn't always work. So it's again, going back to the word I used earlier, it's optimizing. How do I optimize all the things that are accessible to me? Because I believe today, in fact, if you compare generations back, today we have access to so many different engines. If it's technology, there's a lot of people who've built tech, and now whether it's open source or proprietary, I think we have access to a lot of things. It's figuring out how do you put all these things together to solve a specific problem. And then using things that are fit for purpose. So, and apologies that I have a bit of a tech bias, but so let's give an example. I'm building a startup to solve a data problem in agriculture, and then all of a sudden I'm throwing in things like blockchain where it does not contextually make sense. You end up running a heavy cost running your technology instead of actually solving a farmer's problem. So it's not throw technology first to the problem, it's looking at how does technology enable you to solve that problem. And essentially people, leveraging on people. I think sometimes the danger that we have in terms of trying to build businesses around whether it's agriculture is sometimes we make the assumption that we can do it alone. But if you're able to build the right team, right structure, leverage on people, the networks, the forums, the different engines that are available, then you start having a situation where you can get people who can help you solve these problems. So let's say I start a startup and I'm good at writing code, but I have no idea how to solve a product. You need to bring in someone who understands how do I create a business model? How do I create a financial model? How do I, put this on the ground? How do I leverage on this? So you need a good team. So I guess there's a number of ways you look at it. And it's entirely contextual. I hope that answers the question.
I know, and that's very important. Sometimes it's not the technology that drives profitability. It's how do you, I love the fact that you focused on how do you leverage people, how do you leverage systems, how do you leverage, on networks that you have to sustain your organization. How do you leverage now technology as an enabler to this profitability? So thank you for that. That comes out very well. So thank you, panelists. And I can see that we built a body around, precision farming, agriculture, its future, about the businesses, how we can leverage technology to enhance businesses, how we can, as stakeholders, play a major role, in ensuring that there's value in technology and agriculture. With your immense information, it was very informative. Really, really thank you. I want us to wrap this discussion and just put it in summary. And I'll start with our first panelists. Why should stakeholders in the agricultural sector be encouraged to understand, adopt, implement, and embrace precision farming for food security? Over to you, Mr. Gichel.
I think the power of precision farming is in data. So,
absolutely.
and we don't want to be grappling in guesswork. So data gives us the clarity to look at interventions that we need to do in agriculture. And I think it's about time that we actually focus on, including government, focus on data. And we are, as AGRA, are very passionate about moving this conversation to help government have infrastructure for data so that they are able to know what they're producing. We, for example, are now supporting commercial countries with what we call the food basket sheet, so that they are able to know how much they're producing, how much they are selling, really to have an indicative of how secure they are in terms of the different countries around 11 countries, I think about 12 countries around COMESA. So we are doing it to help them start appreciating data and taking data seriously, because it is the only way, I believe, that we can actually make a difference in our farming system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gichel. I love the clarity. Focus on data. Data is clarity. Thank you for those beautiful words. Over to you, Mr. Gichel. To our audience, please, just in summary, why should farmers, stakeholders, enthusiasts in technologies and agriculture, why is precision farming becoming the focus of the future of agriculture and food sustainability?
Thank you for that. And definitely, I agree with Nixon. We can't be doing guesswork when it comes to agriculture. So, being able to understand, we don't have unlimited resources. And of course, there are resources that are limited. So, if you look at aspects like climate change, they're directly affected by how we actually utilize the resources that we have. So data becomes very, very interesting in understanding what are we doing on ground. And I think the best way to leverage on that is it's using technology. And looking at how do we all work together and not necessarily in silos. And I'll give you a good example. There's work that as Microsoft we do in building technology, but we understand, we're not going to solve every problem, but we build platforms that then enable organizations solve that problem. And we look at how do we build the necessary partnerships. So be it with AGRA, be it with the government, be it with, whoever our industry stakeholders, how do we bring everyone together to solve common problems? How do we enable a way in which people can start understanding what each other are doing rather than everyone trying to solve everything on their own? So I think leveraging on partnerships across organizations becomes very interesting to be able to solve the problem. Maybe there's one person who's doing pest problem solutions, there's someone else doing soil testing, there's someone else collecting farmer data. How do you bring all these people together to make sure that we're really utilizing what we have in the precise way? Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kipchelat. I love the fact that you're advocating for leveraging in partnership. If you're doing soil testing, if you're doing pest management, if you're doing irrigation, come together, build a monster, learn from it, take it forward. And that is how we implement precision farming. Well said. Over to you, Edna. What's your summary? What should the audience, especially the ones who are talking about making quick money, gaps in education, upskilling, how would you summarize precision farming as a solution to all these challenges that we are getting from our audience? Over to you.
All right. So why should stakeholders adopt precision farming? Because the fate of the humanity relies on it. That's it. We're talking about food security. Actually, I think they say it takes you about 3 weeks to die out of hunger. So that's it. It's even worse when we're looking at water, because it takes you 3 days to die because of dehydration. So it's actually a matter of life and death we're talking about here. And if that doesn't give you enough chills, maybe the economic motivation could give you a reason to adopt, because we are looking at trying to mitigate $940 billion losses out of food waste. So if the humanity wasn't a reason, maybe the money should motivate you. But yeah, that is why. And how we go about it is what the whole team was saying. We also need to look not just the stakeholders in precision farming, but also outside, because if we are to transform the value and catapult growth, we need to connect the agricultural sectors to other sectors that are growing and other supply chains that are rapidly growing in order for us to move it quicker than what we are currently doing. So that would be my summary, and I look forward to being able to collaborate with people and organizations within the space, and KCIC is there to support any upcoming entrepreneurs that are operating in that space.
Absolutely. There's one thing I only got from you, Edna. It's a matter of life or death. I mean, that wants me to jump into precision farming like yesterday. So thank you very much. If you're not moved by humanitarian crisis, then you should be moved by hunger. If you're not moved by hunger, you should be moved by lack of life. Not more say than that. Thank you. Thank you, Edna. Thank you, Mr. Kipchelat. Our panelist Nixon had to drop off. I can see someone requesting, actually saying such an informative session. Is it possible to get contacts of the panelists So if that's okay, I kindly leave your contacts. It could be your handles, your social media handles on chat, and then I can share that live if that's okay with you. People want to get to understand more and contact you directly. So thank you very much, panelists. Thank you for your time. Thank you for for those intricate details on precision farming and how it relates to food security. And thank you for opening our eyes when it comes to profitability, when it comes to businesses, when it comes to food security. All that has been brought out very clearly by your informative session. So a very good afternoon to each and every one of you, wherever you are joining us from. In case you have any questions, please reach out to the panelists. They have just left let me share this also live. They have left their contact details. If you have any questions, let us know. And also you can leave us any questions that you have on email. Let me just share that email. Joan or you can visit as well our website, and you'll get more information about the agro, about agriculture, about opportunities. And I'm sure we'll be working with the panelists and much more, more organizations to help you bring agricultural information to surface. That will be value to you and value to Africa at the end of the day. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kipchilat, Ms. Kimenju. We appreciate your time and also your feedback in terms of agriculture. Have a lovely evening, and over to you, technical team of Agro. Asanteni.